Hello, my name is Scuria-Herman, and today I'll be checking out Delicate Cycle by The Uncluded. Now, if you don't know, The Uncluded is the sort of collab between Kimya, Dawson, and Aesop Rock. So, last time I put Uncluded in the title, I think people didn't know that. So I am probably going to put Aesop Rock and Kimya Dawson instead. But I have no expectations. I've listened to one song from Kimya Dawson as a solo artist before, and I enjoyed it. You guys didn't really, but I enjoyed it. And yeah, I'm interested to see what this is about and how delicate the cycle really is.
I can take my finger off, old dog, old trick, new twist. Like, actually take the finger off, wrap it in a blanket as you would a severed horse head. Mail it to a friend you want a pinky swear more with. And should they need a forearm or something they can practice drawing skulls on, cut it from the shoulder while the saw's warm. The full appendage really make a world of difference. Included 2 or 30 teeth to chew out all your critics. 32 would have been perfect, 2 were casualties of its hits. I always wanted radder things for Christmas.
Okay, before we get too far ahead, I'm really enjoying I don't know, it feels like cozy and wholesome, the music video so far. I don't know if that's just me, but I don't know, it just feels nice. Alright, I can take my finger off, old dog, old trick. I like that, because again, Aesop does this a lot, but he inverts the sort of expected turn of phrase. The old dog can't learn new tricks, and it's like, yeah, an old dog can't learn new tricks, I'm just an old dog doing old tricks. I really like that. New twist, like actually take the finger off. So I could take my finger off, old dog, old trick. New twist, like actually take the finger off. So again, he's furthering that old dog, new trick, and old dog, old trick with this whole taking his finger off idea with how is he actually doing it? Is it a new trick? Is it something that's practiced? Is it all these things that I found? It's interesting. Wrap it in a blanket as you would a severed horse head. That's a very clear reference. Mail it to a friend you want to pinky swear more with, and should they need a forearm or something they could practice drawing skulls on, cut it from the shoulder while the saw is warm. Going very deeply against that cozy vibe that I was just talking about. But at the same time, I don't know, because he's talking about friendship. At the same time, he's talking about oh yeah, mail it to a friend, even though it's obviously in the context, I don't really think that it's necessarily a friend in the general sense, but it's weird, I would say perverted, but perverted has connotations that I don't think apply to this, but it's a perversion of the concept of friendship. And I think knowledge, given the first part, the full appendage really make a world of difference. Include it to a 30 teeth to chew at all your critics. 32 would have been perfect. 2 were casualty of its. So, I mean, he's talking about murder. Talking about murder and desecration of a corpse. There's no real... I mean, he is making light of it, but I think it's a very different sort of sense when looking at it through the lyrics alone, and then through what he's actually saying here. It's very interesting.
I always wanted radder things for Christmas. The rest were cool. I'm shipping out a torso in the AM. You should learn to hit the organs every time at 40 paces. It's important. I can't explain why now. By the way, legs in a crate, delivery by today. If a uniformed man knock knock sign his document, you shouldn't have to walk out to the mailbox for the other ish.
My mom was
I always wanted radder things for Christmas. That line I needed to pause at in the original. It went in the first pause, I guess. But that line I really want to pause at because it to me, it demonstrated a sort of, if not a shift in tone, a shift in perspective. Because we're looking at, instead of an adult, because all the other stuff was really implied to be an adult, this is really, if not from the perspective of a kid, it's retrospective of a kid's perspective. Because I always wanted radder things for Christmas, that's not an adult talking. So I think that's interesting because it also reframes old dog, old trick, and it reframes this concept of murder and friendship. Because it's sort of adding a childlike, I guess naivete, but I don't know if I really like that phrasing, but childlike naivete to that sort of ideology. The rest were cool. That's a very kid thing. I'm shipping out a torso in the AM. You see how it switches up? I always wanted redder things at Christmas. I'm shipping out a torso in the AM. You should learn to hit the organs every time at 40 paces. It's important. I can't explain why now, by the way. Legs in a crate delivery by today. If a uniformed man knocks, sign his document. You shouldn't have to walk out to the mailbox for the other ish. Wow, yeah. I even though I read the first part of that verse, I still didn't get that vibe when I was listening. I was just like, yeah, it's nice, happy-go-lucky song. The lyrics are horrifying. Let me see. I think this is Kimya's verse.
A lunch lady when I was in elementary school. She was outside during recess. She had a whistle and I thought that was cool. She was really nice to all the kids who didn't have a lot of friends. She would give them hugs and tell them jokes, or she'd play catch with them. And my dad worked at the laundromat, which was really cool to me. I'd get to open up the washing machines and clean them out and collect the money, and I'd open the soap dispensers and put new little boxes of soap inside. I knew how it worked and I was good at it, and helping out filled me with a sense of pride. I would meet all kinds of people there and I would look them in the eye and I'd say, hi, excuse me, but do you mind if I shine the glass while your clothes dry? Yeah, my whole life.
Hold on. This is really interesting because this is a very, I feel like, authentic childlike perspective, juxtaposed heavily to Aesop's, I guess, like, pessimistic, sort of murderous lens that he's putting here, which I think shows this dichotomy of a sort of regretful childlike perspective versus a sort of removing the nuance of regret and just sort of looking at it as just like, oh yeah, I was a kid once and I had some cool things. Let's go for the verse. My mom was a lunch lady when I was in elementary school. She was outside during recess. She had a whistle and I thought that was cool. She was really nice to all the kids who didn't have a lot of friends. See, this is a very authentically childlike, very nice perspective, very calm, very happy, which is juxtaposed to I kill people and I mail their body parts to my friends because we're friends. We have a good friendship. Versus she was really nice to all the kids who didn't have a lot of friends. I think that juxtaposition is purposeful. She would give them hugs and tell them jokes, or she'd play catch with them. And my dad worked at the laundromat, which is really cool to me. I'll come back to the laundromat later. I get to open up the washing machines and clean them out and collect the money. And I'd open soap dispenser and put in little boxes of soap inside. I knew how it worked and I was good at it. That, especially with the next line, and helping out, filled me with a sense of pride. That sense of like childish accomplishment of like, I did it and I succeeded and I'm proud of myself for succeeding. I feel like that's a very specific sense of childish accomplishment because it's very minuscule. And I think that someone like Aesop in the first verse wouldn't recognize that kind of accomplishment because he is very pessimistic of like, hey, you need a forearm? Let's go saw it off somebody. Instead of like, I know how a washing machine works and I'm very good at putting the soap in. I think that is an interesting sort of dichotomy there. I would meet all kinds of people there and I would look them in the eye and I'd say, hi, excuse me, but do you mind if I shine the glass while your clothes dry? This matches the vibe of the rest of the song. The hook really doesn't, but I think that that's not like a bad thing. I think that that's purposeful to present this difference in perspective that is important for the rest of the song. I was going to talk about a laundromat and I still am, but I do want to talk about it after the chorus because it started, I didn't pause correctly, I'm sorry, but it started and I do want to let that finish before I talk about it because I do have an idea, I guess prompted by that, but just in general. Let me go back a little bit just so I can get the full thing.
Your clothes dry, yeah, my whole life is a delicate cycle, delicate cycle. My whole life is a delicate cycle. My whole life is a delicate cycle, delicate cycle. My whole life is a delicate cycle.
Inside a jar with a...
The tempo of that was very interesting. I found Kimya's thing very interesting because it continued along that tempo that she was going off of. Aesop's rap, I feel like it was even like more hardcore rap than his like original verse in the song, which I think was very interesting because it, again, put these two perspectives at war with one another. They conflicted them. My whole life is a delicate cycle. And again, it's repeated for the entire chorus, and that's the chorus. I feel like that is such an interesting line because I think it directly connects to Kimya's verse, Laundromat. That's why I didn't want to say, you know, delicate cycle. I figured that out pretty quickly. But I think that connects directly to it, but also the cycle that is presented by Aesop is also delicate in a different way, in a more literal way of being a murderer and corpse desecrator. That's delicate too because he could get caught. And that sort of relationship he has with his youth, I think is interesting. And that's the delicate cycle too. So I think the delicate cycle applies to both of them. It might like have a direct connection, a direct literal connection to Kimya, but I think that it's interesting to see both of them and how it compares.
Jar with a lid, a giant arm with a head. They said it used to walk upright in like New York after 10. One day it woke up out of order, nothing more to extend. Delicate cycle in the alpha of its orbiting end. When it's a personal skill, it's already poured its best. A conversation can be riddled with exorbitant debt, and you don't know it, but I know I owe you more than I've kept. So if you find a biohazard by your door on a step, maybe it couldn't find its faculties, but swore it would.
I want to pause there because a very big line, very important line that was just said. Inside a jar with a lid, a giant arm with head. They said it used to walk upright and like New York after 10. Again, murder. One day it woke up out of order, nothing more to extend. Delicate cycle in the alpha of its orbiting zen. He's looking at the cycle of life and death as a delicate cycle because of his ability to disrupt it. That's very interesting because it also recontextualizes the delicate cycle of Kimya's verse, because looking at that, delicate cycle is just like, oh, laundromat. What does a laundromat mean? That's when she was a kid and it's inherited from her father. And that's a cycle, that's a legacy, a cycle of legacy. And it's delicate because it could get broken by someone murdering someone. It does almost sort of connect. And I do think that that line put a lot of things together for me. Again, that line, it is kind of vague. Could have a lot of interpretations of it. It's definitely open to interpretation. So I'm definitely not being authoritative on my interpretation of it. But if you do have something else, that I would like to hear it, because I do think that that's apparent. I was gonna say interparent, but that's not. If it is a word, it's not the one I'm thinking of. I think it's because I saw impersonal in the next line. Speaking of, when it's impersonal, it says in the lyrics here, but I doubt that they said impersonal. When its impersonal skill has already poured its best, a conversation can be riddled with exorbitant debt. I think the debt there is social debt. It's not economic debt. It's talking about sort of the general composition of a conversation and how that can lead one person indebted to another socially instead of financially. I don't know if that makes sense, but it makes sense in my head. And you don't know it, but I know you. I owe you more than I've kept. So if you find a biohazard on your door on the step,
maybe it couldn't find its faculties, but swore it would help. Wanted to be a larger part than its abnormalities let. Hang on, I'm overnighting eyes with a headlight, deer stare. One up, bin band, UPS and ear pair. Wear 'em if you need a new perspective on a weird year. And one day when I'm better, we can square away a fair share. The last frame silhouetted by the sun was an airmail stamp on a still warm tongue.
I was 20.
Wow, okay. This continues a lot of the themes that I've brought up. I'm not going to say every single part of it because I feel like I've said a lot already and I want to get through the rest of this. But maybe it couldn't find its faculties, but swore would help. Wanted to be a larger part, and its abnormalities let. Hang on, I'm overnighting eyes with a headlight deer stare. One up, Vin, UPS and ear pair. Wear 'em if you need a new perspective on a weird year, and one day when I'm better, we can square away a fair share. This brings it back to the friend sort of perspective, where it's like he's still trying to form a bond with somebody, even though he's a psychopath who's killing people. The last frame silhouetted by the sun was an airmail stamp on a still warm tongue. He's trying to form these connections, through literal reaching out, whether it be with someone else's arm or not, but he's trying. It's just his brain has been broken because it fell out of this delicate cycle that he can't really connect in any way that matters.
6 years old, the first time I lived in a house with a washer and dryer in it, and that's the year I bottomed out. Maybe what was missing was the sense of community that comes from hauling your big old load out in public and airing your dirty laundry, and the company of other people who also don't have the amenities at their convenience in a home that's so set up that they never have to leave. I miss the smell, the dust, the coins, the trust, the squeaky carts, the vibrations, the bucket full of bleach, the dryer sheets, the old payphone, the giant sink. I'd watch my daddy mop the floor, and my heart started with a quarter. I'd watch my daddy mop the floor, and my heart started with a quarter.
Ooh, alright. I was 26 years old the first time I lived in a house with a washer and dryer in it, and that's the year I bottomed out. Maybe what was missing was a sense of community that comes from hauling your big old load out in public and airing your dirty laundry. There's obviously a double meaning to that, of sharing and opening up with others, but wow, I think it speaks for itself mostly, but wow, I think it's a powerful verse. And the company of other people who also don't have the amenities at their convenience in a home that's so set up they never have to leave. I miss the smell, the dust, the coins, the trust, the squeaky carts, the vibrations, the bucket full of bleach, the dryer sheets, the old payphone, the giant sink. This is sort of looking at the minor details that make up the whole of what is important to you, which is this connection with the dad, with the family, with the community. And you're looking at the minor things, the cart, the bleach, the sheets, the sink, all these minor things, all these details that make up the whole of this mental picture of what it was like to be happy. And you're picking out these small things to reminisce about because you can't reminisce about an abstract idea. So you reminisce about how you felt or how you were when you felt that way, or the things that were around you when you had community. That is powerful. And as someone who's never really had community, I think that's really strong at conveying that. I watched my daddy mop the floor and my heart started with a quarter. It's connecting the character. I don't know if it's a her, I was gonna say her, but that was just because Kimya was doing it. But the character feels so connected to this laundromat, to their father, to the community, that they feel like their heart beats because of it. And outside of it, they feel bottomed out, they feel alone, they feel cut off. And then looking at a delicate cycle, you go back to the first verse of this person who is cut off and starts killing people because of it. And starts trying to reach out, but no one really cares anyway. This is not in defense of murder, by the way. I just want to specify that.
My whole life is a delicate cycle, delicate cycle. My whole life is a delicate cycle. My whole life is a delicate cycle, delicate cycle. My whole life is a delicate cycle.
I know this is just like a basic musical thing, but I do like how Aesop can get the 2 lines in when Kimya gets the 1 line in. I know that's just basic like tempo and stuff or whatever. I'm not a musically minded person, but I just find it interesting. I just think it's cool because it just lines up really well and makes my brain happy when the delicate cycle lines up at the end. It's a cycle.
Whole life is a delicate cycle, delicate cycle. My whole life is a delicate cycle. My whole life is a delicate cycle, delicate cycle. My whole life is a delicate cycle.
Huh? What happened? Oh no, what happened? Oh no. What happened? Kimya, Dawson, Aesop, Rock. What happened? What did I stumble upon? I almost don't want this to load. I'm very worried about what I'll find out. You, at this point, if you don't already know, you would have known from a little text box if it's important. But that's all for me. So until next time, adieu.